We are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win show. Hi, and welcome to another Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul.
We are on part five of 7. And today we're talking about motivators, hidden motivators.
Are you more interested in function or
form?
So
yeah, we're talking about your aesthetics or your surroundings. And so this is the 4th motivator that we are going over. And we all value our surroundings, but we value our surroundings in different ways. And so we're going to help you understand the difference between two ends of a continuum as they relate to surroundings. And Paul, for this session, is going to be the objective, right?
Right.
Okay. So Paul's on one end of the spectrum called objective. I'm on the other end of the spectrum called harmonious.
So why don't you talk just a little bit about surroundings in general? What does that mean?
Well, if you think about, so let's put this in the business environment for a minute. We all kind of do it differently based on what we value in terms of how our office space looks, right? So for some people, you might look like complete chaos with stacks of papers everywhere, and maybe it's completely organized chaos and you can put your fingers on anything you need to when you need to, but to just the average person, they might look into the office and go, what a disaster. How do you function?
Right.
And then there are other people who are on the harmonious end of the spectrum. You walk into their office and it not only is all organized looking, like it's just pretty looking, right? It's very harmonious and balanced, but you'll also notice some other aesthetically pleasing things, like maybe the color on the wall or the paintings that are up or the flowers that are in there. There's this feeling of, like someone paid attention to how this office looks. Now, depending on where you sit, you may or may not value this beautiful, harmonious, balanced type of office. You may, like Paul, value like somebody whose objective can not only function in chaos, sometimes they thrive in it, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you?
Well, and why this is important and why we're talking about this again is about the hidden motivators. So these are motivators that you don't see, right? And people. And we judge people on how we see them and then how they act or how they keep their office or how do they work, in the environment that they work best in. And why it's important to know this. And as we discuss this topic and motivator, think to yourself, are you more objective or are you more harmonious? So are you somebody who's more black and white, just needs function, or do you need it to look pretty and be nice and be comfortable for you as you work in that environment?
So think about, let's give a perfect example.
Yeah.
Your desk and your office setup. If you have a choice of the type of furniture that you have in your office, is your furniture really nice looking and lots of, attention to detail and everything kind of fits together, but maybe isn't the most comfortable? Or would you tend to be on the other end of the spectrum where the office is all about functionality? I need to have the right amount of space in my drawers. Things need to be easy to get to. I need to be able to have my, keyboard right where it is. Like I had at one point a desk that was so super cute, but it was so not functional.
Right.
Now, in this episode, I'm playing somebody who's harmonious. So if I really were harmonious, it would have been perfect for me. And I wouldn't have cared so much that it really wasn't functional.
Yeah. And you know what? When we would shop for my office desk, the only thing that was important to me was, did the desk have enough space on top for me to be able to put things? And then also, did it have like a riser on it so I could put my dual monitors on it? So purely functional. I wanted that to be the perfect height so that when I was sitting up, I could see it. So I didn't really care so much about how it looked. I was just more concerned about how will this work for me? And is it going to be help me get things done quicker, be more efficient.
And, I'm going to just throw something interesting out there. You're a very, very visual person, and yet you're not highly aesthetic or harmonious. You're not someone who has to have everything looking just perfect. You are very much more about being objective and being functional. So some other things that play out in that aspect is that for someone who's harmonious, I appreciate being in the moment and just enjoying the moment. And oftentimes that means I really prefer to be outdoors. Like I want to enjoy nature and appreciate it. So if I'm going to the beach, for an example, I'm going to take my shoes off and I'm going to feel the sand between my toes, and I'm going to go into the water and I'm going to, like have that moment and just really connect, right?
Yeah. With
this beautiful balance and harmony in nature. And there are a lot of people who really, really get into that.
Yeah. And
for
me, on the other hand,
functional,
I like the idea of thinking of going to the beach, but when I actually get there, I'm bored to tears.
So let's talk about how you do sunset as an example, because this is pretty hilarious. We're like the just-in-time sunset couple, which is very functional. So you talk about that.
So we always, we'll ask Google what time the sunset is. So the sun sets at 7:24 today. We're like, okay. So we always plan on leaving way earlier, but we never do. So we leave the house at 7, and then we roll up on Vanderbilt Beach in the little cul-de-sac area that they have turnaround. I pull up, you hop out, you grab all the chairs, we grab all the chairs, throw them out on the sidewalk, and then I go park the car. I literally run. Heather sets up the chairs. The sun's just about ready to go down. I come rolling in. We sit down for 10 minutes, watch the sunset, and then we're like, okay, let's go.
Here. So that's a very, very functional way of doing a sunset. Literally pulling it on 2 wheels, watching the sunset, clapping, because they always clap there, and then we're out.
So imagine if you were with somebody who is harmonious, somebody who's
I'm being harmonious right now. So that would make me crazy, because I would want to get there and have enough time to really enjoy the beach and just be out there and experience. I don't like hurrying for anything, right? I like to just kind of like take my time. I might even like to take the pretty drive instead of the fastest way there. But I definitely want to enjoy the experience and be right there in the moment. I don't want to be taking pictures of it because I just want to be experiencing it. Whereas you would capture the right pictures, the perfect pictures, get the people in there, get it all done, and get out.
Yeah.
And I'd be I want to experience this moment.
Well, give the example of harmonious, your mother, and looking for a new home down here.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to do that because this is awesome. My mother really probably is the highest harmonious score you could get. So she is so aesthetic and balanced and in the moment, in the present, and just enjoys every experience and will take her time soaking up every experience. So she's looking for properties down here in Southwest Florida. And when she came down this last time, I said, hey, how about you get together with Lori Fowler, and she's going to give you a list of every property that meets your criteria, so you can take a look at a map and map it out and get to those properties that meet your criteria. And my mom says, no, that's not at all how I want to do it. I want to get a paper map and I want to drive around all the neighborhoods and get the feel for the neighborhoods.
Right.
I'd like to just go get lost in the different neighborhoods so I can get the feel for the neighborhoods. Because for someone harmonious, the feel of things, the energy, the vibration, all of that really, really matters. And on the objective side of the spectrum, you're thinking, why would you use a paper map? Why would you want to get lost? It's the middle of season. This doesn't make any sense. You're going to end up going to neighborhoods that they don't even fit your criteria. So that would seem like a complete and total waste of the time on the objective side of the spectrum.
Well, and just listening to that, it's a stressor.
Yeah.
For somebody who's objective.
For someone who's really objective, being with somebody who's really harmonious, it's very, very difficult to see why would you do that? Right. But it's completely natural. And by the way, she's looking at well, why would you just go off of a printout and do it?
Like if you're going to live there, you have to really you have to experience and
Yeah.
feel like, is there a good energy in the, you know, in the neighborhood? Whereas when we were looking for, when I was looking for neighborhoods, it was all, I knew exactly what we wanted. We wanted certain HOA fees. We wanted, you know, golf. We wanted,
Tennis.
you know, we wanted a pie-shaped lot. We were so functional in what we wanted that it was so awesome because it was so efficient. When we gave our criteria to Lori, our real estate agent, what did she pull up? 3 different communities. That was it out of all in Naples.
She eliminated all of Naples except for 3 communities.
Amazing. Yeah.
So think about that. I mean, that was ridiculously functional. My mother would not have been about that at all because that is way too functional.
Yeah.
So one last thing, when you think about, you know, for some of you, as you're listening to this, you may say, well, in some instances, I feel like I'm kind of harmonious because I care how things look. In some instances, I'm more functional and more objective. And in that case, it may not be a big pull one way or the other. But for those of you who can really relate to this, and you know you're either like Paul on the ridiculous side of objective or like me on the ridiculous side of harmonious, at least that's what I'm playing right now, although I'm not. If you can really relate to that, I want you to be thinking about our hidden motivators. They are the why behind taking action, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're what drive us to take action. So what we tend to do, if you don't know what your motivators are, we tend to think that other people think the way that we think, and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're very harmonious, you don't understand how somebody can be so objective. Like very harmonious would walk into an office that looked chaotic and say, I don't know how you function. You've got to clean this up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It would be very confusing for them and very uneasy. Yeah. And they would feel uncomfortable being in a space. The first thing that they would do would go in, if they had to take over that office, is they would clean it up and make sure it looks nice. They would, instead of like our office right here where it's just beige walls, they would paint the walls to the color that they want because it has to have that right feel. Yeah. And so if you're objective and you're somebody that's just really black or white, very functional, you're thinking, why don't you just get to work instead of putting all this stuff together?
I don't care.
So that's where, you know, that's where people start judging each other and start making assessments about people before, you know, and not really understanding that that's a motivator. So how do you motivate somebody that is a harmonious, or how do you motivate somebody that is, and really play into their motivation that is objective?
Well, you know, a lot of companies over the last, 10 plus years have gone to more of that bullpen kind of, you know, like getting rid of the offices and putting everybody in one room together. Yeah. And what we know about that because of hidden motivators is if you have somebody who's highly harmonious, they need to be in a quiet and peaceful environment to get the best out of them. Mm-hmm. They would really stress out if the person in the cubicle next to them was loud, was chaotic, had a chaotic environment. Like it would be a big stressor. It would not be productive.
Right.
Whereas somebody who's objective is actually, they might even, if they had an office, they might even pick their stuff up out of their office and go into a noisy and chaotic environment because they kind of thrive with that energy. So
yeah, those are people, like a lot of people like to go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
And go to work there. And if you're a harmonious person, to sit in Starbucks with all the noise and clutter and just everything that's going on there, the busyness of it, that would drive you crazy.
Right. So just you know, it's important to figure out how you're motivated, right? And what makes your environment, you know, make you thrive. If you're one of those people, like I was talking to someone who was very, very harmonious, right? They really cared about the look and feel of their environment, but they also had a behavioral style that made them operate very quickly, right? Mm-hmm. They had one of those fast-paced.
So they were harmonious, but they were very fast-paced.
Yes, which can create a conflict, right?
Sure.
So their office environment really, really mattered to them, but they hadn't taken the time to fix the office up. And it was something that really, really, it was weighing on her. And I said to her, look, I want you to bump this up in your list of priorities because you're someone who's all about productivity. You need to have the kind of functional and pleasing environment to get you excited to be in that office and feel like you're in your flow. And she totally got it. And that was like a big breakthrough moment for her because it was something she hadn't done and had wanted to do, but she was just moving too fast to get it done.
Yeah. So I think what's important about this whole conversation and topic that we are, it's all about the hidden motivators. But why that's important is because as we've been saying, that people have these below the surface, for the waterline, motivators that we don't ever see. That we'll see their actions, but we don't know actually what motivates them. So if you're at work with somebody or you're leading people and you don't understand what their motivators are, and you know something's kind of off, like compared to yourself, something's different about why they're doing the things they do, and you just can't figure it out. One of the best things that you can do is use an assessment and we always recommend, we used to always just do DISC, which is the 4 behavioral styles. And that's really all about how we do things, the action part of how we do things, well, how we see people, fast paced, slower paced, are they task or are they more people? But what we're also now always including in the assessments that we give to our clients is the motivators part of it. And why that's important is because you can really start to understand why somebody's taking the action. So now you kind of have a much fuller picture of what it looks like for that particular person. Once you start understanding, and we like just in this example of surroundings, you can really start to play in. If you're leading somebody and you know they're struggling, you can help them to really understand and align
yeah.
their motivators with their behavioral styles, with the job that they're doing, with the environment that they're in, and you can really increase the productivity out of that particular person. And they'll be shocked by it because a lot of times they don't even know why they're doing the things that they do. But when they see it, it's amazing what happens with that alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. Oftentimes people don't know why they get frustrated. They don't know why they get stopped. And it's because they don't have an understanding of those hidden motivators. And sometimes those motivators are in conflict with their behaviors.
Right.
If you don't understand this, you will feel a constant source of frustration, but you won't know why. So you'll think it's your environment, right? So this is a really, really, really cool part of reflection, right? Really understanding more about you. We know that the people who are most successful really, really know themselves. They understand themselves very well. And I can tell you that when Paul and I really, really got in tune with our motivators, it made a huge difference for us too in understanding why we do some things the way we do it, because like it's just not normal, right?
Yeah. And so we've showed you these before. So this is what we do for our clients, but we also have them for ourselves because it's so important. Imagine if you had at your workplace, you know, all the people that you work with, if they had this little display that showed what their behavioral style is and what are their motivators. So anytime you sit down at their desk, you can quickly look at that and you can start to adapt and really start to influence them and vice versa. I mean, everybody would be using it and we've seen tremendous value from our clients just having these on their desks because instead of just talking to that person as who they are and who we always just think they are, and we have these prejudgments about them and why do they do the things that they do, you start to be able to relate that with the data.
Yeah. And
which is
I mean,
really awesome.
Even though Paul and I are married and we see each other every day, we work together, I still keep his stuff right in front of me because when we're in conversation and communication, especially when there's conflict, it helps me so much to remind myself, we're so opposite, helps me to remind myself that if I don't adapt to, you know, the way that he likes to communicate or help him tap into his motivators, that he's not going to feel nearly as productive. So, and of course, I'm all about getting the most productivity out of you, right? So anyway, thanks so much for tuning in today. And if you have any questions for us about motivators, or if you want to see what an assessment looks like for you or for your team, reach out to us. You can reach out to Paul directly at paul@evolveglobal.com. And if you haven't connected with us yet, please go to heatherchristie.com and sign up for our leadership list. Have an awesome day.
Bye. Oh, and next week we're going to...
Oh, well, let's tell you what we're going to talk about next week. Next week, we're going to talk about how we value others. Are you one of those people who's really altruistic, just giving of yourself, giving of your time, giving of everything all the time? Or are you somebody who's a little bit more intentional about who you help and how you help them? So this one's a really good one.
Yeah, that'll be a good topic. Okay, have a great
See you
day.
next time.
Bye now.